So
Really does.
we're about 1 week in, just over. We're at the first rest stage. A fair bit's happened. So we've got Pogacar blowing everybody away. We've got the emergence of Ben O'Connor. We've got 5 stages by my count until the next rest day, maybe 6 if I'm off my A game. Do you think much could happen in these next few days in terms of each jersey, each competition for each jersey?
So I think stage 10 after the rest day is going to be relatively calm. I mean, the only KOM points on offer are up the Col de Cool, which is basically just 7.4 Ks at 2.8%. The rest of it is completely flat. So we won't see too much movement on the KOM jersey there, and it'll probably be down to the sprinters at the end. And I mean, when you've got a bunch of sprinters there, anything could happen. I don't think too much will change on the green jersey, and I don't think too much will change in the KOM. But I think there's real potential for the race to be blown apart in stage 11. And the reason I say that is we've got a double ascent of Mont Ventoux. So Mont Ventoux we've never had a double ascent of this before. It is arguably one of the toughest climbs in professional cycling. And to see a double ascent of that, it's it's insane. I'm trying to find the measurements. Here we go. So on one of the ascents, it's 15.7 Ks long at a gradient average of 8.8%. The first 3 Ks are about 10%. The last 2 Ks will kick up to about 9.5%. And I mean, just as a warm up, there's 2 smaller climbs before they even hit that. There's a 1.9k climb at 6% and a 2.5k climb at 5.1. So there's some real potential for damage to be done on stage 11.
Ooh, bit of carnage, bit of good carnage there.
A bit of good carnage.
Good carnage. Hey, Pogacar's been doing some good carnage, by the way, hasn't he? See, that's the good carnage we want. Someone blowing the race open.
He has blown the race open. I mean, we touched on it briefly before, but the way we saw him ride up the left-hand side of the road and leave those breakaway and catch the breakaway riders and then just leave them in his dust, geez, haven't seen that before. Or at least haven't seen it for a very long time. Just, the strength that he showed was incredible. It was a joy to watch. It was, very enjoyable.
Isn't it just? I'm liking this tour. I mean, it's different. It's different to what we've had in the past, but I'm liking how it's setting up. I hope Pogacar isn't that good. It'd be nice to see him as human.
Yeah, I think that's what I am waiting for almost, and I mean, we don't want to see him crash. I'm not saying that, but I do want to see something challenge him, whether it's an off day, whether it's a mechanical, whether it's, I don't know, he gets a puncture. I do want to see a little bit of adversity, and I want to see how he responds to that. We've seen it happen before with with him and Port getting caught in the crosswinds in last year's tour, but with such a commanding lead, I do want to see, something happen that levels the playing field a little bit.
Yeah, and I suppose the fact that he's in the yellow jersey so early could potentially add to that potential for, imploding or at least seeing some cracks in him. Because if you think back to last year, he was in the yellow jersey at the very end. He just snuck in. Roglic held it the whole time. Roglic took all the punches from all the other teams. So we haven't seen Pogacar hold on to it for a long time. Maybe it could be the undoing of him.
That was my big thing coming to this tour, is we had never, ever seen Pogacar defend the yellow jersey. As you said, he was in it for one day. Not even one day. He was in it at the finish line when he won the tour of the individual time trial last year. We'd never seen him nor his team defend yellow. Whereas, as you said, Roglic and Jumbo-Visma did that for the whole tour essentially last year. So, yeah, it's certainly an interesting dynamic, and it's been interesting to see how aggressive he's still ridden with the yellow jersey. So, I mean, we've been saying we wouldn't mind seeing him crack a little bit and show that he is, human for the sake of the rest of us, because we watch it and go, I can't do that. I wish I could. But if we saw him crack as a result of these repeated attacks whilst wearing yellow, it would open the tour up for sure.
It would. And I mean, looking at the aggressiveness of those attacks, sure, he's opportunistic. He saw opportunities. He was riding better than everyone else. But Team UAE was in control of the race yesterday. They were doing some good pace making. You saw Ineos take over and really push the pace up a bit, and it slowed right off. And then he just attacks and blows everyone apart. He doesn't have the methodical, robotic controlling of the race that we're used to with Ineos or even Jumbo Visma with Roglic last year. The total control. UAE's hasn't seemed to quite be doing that yet. Do you think they're capable of it?
I think they're capable. I'm not sure Pogacar's capable of riding that way. I think that his strength is in that unpredictability, because last year he didn't necessarily have the same amount of support from his team in terms of rider ability that he has this year. He actually rode off other teams, so he would sit on the train of Jumbo or Ineos. He would sit on the Quick Step train, and he would make that his pseudo team for whichever stage it was. And in that sense, he could afford to be reactionary. He could afford to react to moves being made. Whereas now we've seen Team UAE go to the front and set the pace, and then Pogacar goes, actually, you know what? I'll do it my way anyway, and then takes off up the road.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's necessarily that Team UAE can't control the race. I think it's just the way that Pogacar likes to ride.
Well, that's very interesting. And being a young rider as well, that discipline to play at the team way. Not saying anything of him, but of course we've all been young. We've all been those young bucks. Maybe not in the Tour de France, but I remember back in my day doing odd sport things, and it's my way. I can do it. Don't help me. Do you reckon there's a bit of greenness to him? He's got a bit of learning to do, maybe.
I would say, as opposed to greenness, I would say that there's maybe a sense of invincibility. And that comes naturally, being such a talented young rider who has already won the Tour de France. I mean, you're naturally going to have that sense of invincibility. Why wouldn't you? You've just shown you're the best in the world. But I think this comes down to experience. And Pogacar doesn't, or probably doesn't have that breadth of experience that his more seasoned companions have. So who knows? He could continue riding at this tempo and not slow down, or we could really see these aggressive attacks catch up to him in the late stages of week 2 and into week 3.
It is a long, long race, and I think in such a long race, we say there is not as much competition to Pogacar as we hoped, given the way the race has unfolded. I think there is one very big competitor to Pogacar, and that's Tadej Pogacar himself.
It's a great point. It is a fantastic point, and I was thinking about this today. I think that the only person who can slow him down is himself. Is it an unnecessary risk that he takes? Is it a mechanical? Is it a flat? Is it him choosing the wrong line on a descent? And we've already seen a few riders come off and hit the deck on these descents, these long, windy, slippery descents. So it's just about him weighing up that risk v reward factor. And if he chooses to risk it on those technical sections of a descent, for example, is he prepared to live with the outcome?
Yeah. Maybe even he's been so successful riding the way he has been the last week, even last year. There's a potential that he doesn't change that, and that could cause some problems. Think of how Richard Carapaz these last few days has been trying to make up time, racing up those mountains, and getting caught by the peloton anyway. There's every chance Pogacar could take off once again, and maybe it doesn't go as well as we hoped. Maybe I'm just hoping for something that might not happen, but come on, crack Pogacar, jeez.
It's I keep telling myself that with these repeated efforts, eventually he does have to crack. We saw Carapaz, he put in two massive, massive attacks in back-to-back days, and one of them was so significant where he got out to, I think it was about a minute at one point, and it ended up resulting in nothing. The peloton actually
Mm.
clawed him back, and Pogacar's chase group clawed him back, and then he tried again the next day, and then he tried again the third day, and on the third day, you could tell that those efforts had caught up to him because he just didn't have any juice to give when the going got tough. And I mean, I'm sure that that's going to catch up to Pogacar soon, or maybe that's just wishful thinking. Who knows?
Look, either way, I'm still going to enjoy being on the couch peloton.
Oh, definitely, it's the best place to be. I mean, we are truly witnessing greatness. Pogacar will go down if he continues on this trajectory as one of the best cyclists we've seen of our generation. So I think it is an amazing opportunity to sit back and just enjoy it for what it is.
It takes a certain amount of awareness and mindfulness to truly understand when you're watching something amazing, historic. And that's what we have on
Mm,
our hands now, don't we? We've got this young kid who is just blowing the race apart. Sure, there were some crashes of some potential key competitors, but I think even if those crashes didn't happen, he would still be riding unbelievably. And it's just amazing to
yeah,
watch. And when you finally can like drop that Australian hat, oh come on Ben O'Connor, Pogacar, when you can just sort of put that down for a minute and think, oh geez, look at this, and watch how each of those riders are looking across at Pogacar and smiling and like they can't believe how good he is. It is just a pleasure to watch, isn't it?
absolutely. And you're right. When you take off that Australian cycling hat and you just put on your cycling hat in general, it really is, as you said, a pleasure to watch. And I think it's something we're going to look back on in a few years and go, "Holy shit! I can't believe we witnessed this." It's yeah, I think it's going to be a historic result in the end in terms of the gap between first and second.
Definitely.